Anderson.
Here.
Malone.
Here.
Petroni. Pagano. Stuckey.
Here.
Please, everybody in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.2, adoption of the agenda, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to move to remove item 6.1, approval of proposed textbook adoption. Today, last week when Ms. Springboro spoke with all of you, it was my understanding she had shared and actually supplied you with the feedback from the survey. She actually summarized it, and unfortunately she had to go out of town. So it was brought to my attention today that you had not received the full set of survey results. So I just think at this point, we're not in a huge rush. I wanted you to be able to read all of the comments from parents. But keep in mind, we had 3,200 parents surveyed, 118 actually participated in the survey, and I think less than 50 were able to write comments, and we can't determine if the same person could write comment after comment after comment. So I just felt it was beneficial that you could read every comment. It's a large purchase for $2 million, and I want to make sure that you're comfortable with it and that you have all of the information. I'm still very comfortable with it. I've read the comments, and I think we've shared most of those with you, but my thing is, if I were a board member, I definitely would want all the information before making a decision like that. So we will bring that back on either July 22nd or July 10th if we schedule a special meeting on July 10th. I still don't know yet. We're looking to see if we get everyone hired and have everyone lined up. So I'll be in touch with all of you about that.
Okay. Roll call?
Anderson.
Yes.
Malone.
Yes.
Petroni.
Yes.
Stuckey.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 1.3, approval of the May 27th meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson.
Yes.
Malone.
Yes.
Petroni.
Abstain.
Stuckey.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 1.4, approval of the June 3rd special meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? Roll call?
Anderson.
Yes.
Malone.
Yes.
Petroni.
Yes.
Stuckey.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 3.2, approval of fiscal year 2014 final appropriation resolution and fiscal year 2009, right? Item? All right.
Here.
Okay, you're right. Item 2.1, Springboro Education Association report. Is there any such report? Nope. Item 2.2, Springboro Classified Employees Association report. Is there any such report? Thank you. Item 2.3, public participation prearranged. I don't think anybody's scheduled. Item 2.4, public participation.
Do you want me to come up here?
Here, use my microphone.
You probably have to use.
We have one right over there, Mr. Petrie, at the podium.
Right here.
Yep. You just turn on the,
Mr. Pinnell typically is here. His wife had surgery today and it ran way over and she's having a tough time doing well. He was unable to be here at the last minute. So we have someone filling in for him and a few parts that we typically don't have, but we're making it work tonight.
Thank you. Hi, Stephanie Vindeman, 35 Fry Court. Last board meeting in work session, we talked about our e-books and our new textbooks. And I thought about it a little bit more. I went home and tried to do the survey, but the survey wasn't available anymore because I went home and I thought, I should put this out on Sure, get some other people, because May was a really busy month for most of us, and we got lots of stuff from the school, what we needed to do. So I think in all of that, maybe it got lost, and we had the discussion before about maybe the younger kids' parents didn't realize that it was really going to affect them because we forget how long we're going to keep textbooks in today's world. But I just would like us to take a step back. I hope that we're not rushing in on something. I'm just a little bit concerned. We don't have feedback from the OAAs yet, do we? We don't have those in yet from this year. And I told you last time, I got a 6th grader who loves math. Husband's an engineer, helps him a lot on math, not a fan of digits. We really aren't. We weren't a fan of even having to get a Chromebook, but I have to tell you, we have fallen in love with that. So the Benjamins can move into this century, we really can. But I'm just really worried. Pearson has had some big problems. You Google them on the internet. They're not a great company according to a lot of feedback, and I'm just really concerned. Pearson, why do they want to come here? We're a really great district. They want to come here. We're going to be their test guinea pigs. And if we do great, we're going to be on all their ads, and that's what they want. Because they want a district like ours that may do well no matter what happens. I'm just really concerned because this is a big step, and it's going to take us, and we really, like I said, we can move into this century, we can use ebooks. We do like the Chromebook. Even my 3rd grader's been using it at 5 points, loves it also. But I'm just real concerned. Most parents I talk to do not like digits. Their kids didn't like digits. They didn't find it real user-friendly. Thought that it took a lot of the teachers out of the equation. And I'm not sure that the teachers like that. I doubt they did because they went into teaching to teach. But my son felt like it was very mechanical. Wasn't a fan of it. And I think a lot of us miss the opportunity to fill out your survey. And this is a big step for textbooks for a long time. So I just would like you to take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, Treasurer's report, item 3.1, approval. Oh.
It's really small.
First, we are not the same people, just so you can see the two of us. I'm Lynn Draper, 225 East Manor. I'm going to sort of second what Stephanie is saying. I'm concerned about Pearson. I don't think digits was a success this year. I don't care what the OED says. I'm a parent in there. I've been complaining since the fall. I tried to give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm not impressed. I've done my research as well. Pearson has a lot of ulterior motives in a lot of states, a lot of communities, so I just want us to maybe think a little bit more. I want to see more research done in the district about Pearson. I don't want to jump on this, especially after what I've read and what they do with student data. So I just ask that we maybe rethink this a little bit and see what other options we have. Thank you.
Have you shared your information with Mr. Burke?
I requested a meeting a couple of weeks ago and never heard back from her. So I have not been able to convey the latest information I have, but I have been in touch with them all year about my concerns. So it shouldn't be shocking. They already know how I feel. In fact, I told Mr. Berger at the introduction meeting with digits last year that I was not comfortable with Pearson coming into the school. So They know us. Probably don't know how I feel about that, so.
Great, thank you.
Mr. President, I just have a comment just to this point here now. I appreciate your feedback and comments. There's a lot of back and forth and email between board members on this matter, or at least board members in the administration. I think some of the sentiments are similar. I think just one of the things for me is that we've taken on this big visioning process, and it was a small pilot, so I sort of do think somewhere in this world of visioning, we should actually probably bring the community with us a little bit more to make sure this is all kind of wrapped together. So as much as I'm a supporter of going into the 21st century, I would not wait for 2.5 years. I just think there's maybe a little bit more testing. And the comments I got about the OEA was that they're not relevant because it's only 1 year, I guess. So apparently it's not an important data point, although I think if they're really stellar, they say something pretty impressive on the teachers and on the delivery and everything else, and it's got some areas of weakness. I think we would give us some opportunity to set some policy direction. So I appreciate your comments, and I think maybe there's a little bit more time as well that we need to expand the pilot, perhaps bring more people engaged, get more parents involved. I really would like to have the parents start looking at the curriculum that their children are going to be learning, and give the teachers a chance to really wrap their arms around this too. So I appreciate the delay. I don't know if that's long enough, but thanks for the time.
Mr. President, if I could, over email this week, we explained the numerous times we had that with parents. And we actually had 66 parents, sixth grade parents, surveyed. 14 did not prefer digits, the rest did. Ms. Cook, would it be okay if just real quick, while we're talking about this, she could give a quick rundown of everything we have done to get this out in front of parents? From this comment here, no research and things of that nature, that's absolutely not fact. Ms. Springboro, Ms. Cook has spent a lot of time working with this and filling a lot of questions in several meetings because I've been in with parents. So, do you mind if she gives a quick rundown of what they have done in terms of preparing to get this information from parents?
You prepared to do?
We have had, we've had parent meetings at the 6 through 8 level at the beginning of the year and at mid-year. Excuse me, with our Pearson reps coming in to instruct parents for grades 6 through 8. We did have a parent meeting at the high school level. We do have survey results from 66 of the students at the SI building. As Mr. Petrie said, 14 would push refer paper and pencil, 52 of whom would prefer the digits program. Those are students who have used the program for 1 year. I can give you more information on their comments, so they had a lot of open-ended questions that they did answer, but we can provide. We've also had our rep in and invited parents to those meetings. We've been a little bit disappointed in our parent response as far as attendance at our meetings. The 6-8 meeting did have a decent group of parents as far as size of the group here within the building. We did break out into sessions. So 6th grade parents went to one room, 7th to another, 8th to another. They were giving individual instruction as well as the opportunity to ask questions should they have any about how they can help their child. So at this point, we are wide open to reopening the survey to our parents. But we do feel that digits and math Excel is the way to go. I sent a list out to board members this week of districts within Ohio who are using this. I do not feel that we are a test site. Number 1 school in Ohio, high school in Ohio using math Excel. As for U.S. News and World Report has been on the program for 2 years. Also looking at school districts such as Upper Arlington and Columbus. Sycamore in Cincinnati, Milford, Cincinnati, some very large districts with proven results. I can get that information out to you from districts who are not just in the pilot phase, but rather have used the program for a period of a couple to 3 years, if that would be helpful to you as you're making your decisions.
I'd like to see, what other school systems are
I think it'd be good if we put that on our website and reopen the survey another couple weeks.
We'll be happy to do that for you.
You
We'll
know,
get it out to parents. We'll try to do our, through our contracts too.
Thank you, Ms. Bacon.
Dr. Williams?
Just kind of a piggyback question. A couple comments have been made. Some degree questioning Pearson as a company, their motives, their general operation. Could we comment on that one way or the other? Are we confident that Pearson is a solid, educationally sound company that we want to be affiliated with? Because obviously, there, not only this meeting, but some other meetings too, there's been some questions about, I call it the quality and performance of the company.
Well, you may know more, but I can also tell you, Pearson acquired 18 different textbook companies. A couple of those companies did have some material that perhaps some would deem as confrontational and or indoctrinating. However, they purchased those companies and now basically they're taking over the market in certain areas. So it's really them, McGraw-Hill, Houghton Mifflin. There's not many to even choose from right now. But of the school districts that we have looked at in terms of affluent-based children, Pearson offers more of the type of curriculum that we would need. Now, if we were more in an inner city setting, or more of an urban setting, then there would be some other programs that I would probably want to look at. Success for All is one. I've used a lot of these programs when I worked in an urban setting. So a lot of these companies are more tailored towards the clientele that you have. So that's just one piece of it.
You know, it may be beneficial, we're talking about reopening this for the public to take a look at, to address that. Because when that is brought to us, that tells me there's people in the community who will probably at least hear, if not share that concern. So anything that we can do to state why we have confidence in Pearson might be beneficial in terms of the overall process.
And we've known overall, moving from 5th grade to where they do not have the tech-based learning to 6th grade, it is very much a change. But the comments that we received and the parents I've met with were 6th grade parents. There were some issues with one particular classroom, and we've addressed that in terms of how we're going to rework that class next year. 7th and 8th grade, we've not received a lot of information. So we can repost it again, but right now we have less than 1% of our population, making comments. So even with that, how valid is that to make a decision based off that small framework?
Yeah, Mr. President, I think, and I have absolutely not asked any questions about the diligence that the staff and the administration has gone through to communicate. I think when we want to get the word out and do things as a district, we have the ability and they have the ability, and they've proven that time and time again. And I think you're right, Mr. Petrie, 1% of the population that is part of this community is not engaging in what we're looking for help for them to do, which is to step up and give comments to the curriculum that their children will be taught. And then that's really, you know, they say local curriculum and local, this stuff is all local, but we really have to get them engaged. So I appreciate the delay. And to the extent that there's these debates about simple questions too, I hope we can try to find ways to move forward on this stuff. I mean, it really would be, I would appreciate it as well. Maybe you can help with some of that. Because I know that I'm not challenging at all the amount of effort the staff has gone through to get to this point. And I've been asking them as a board member, Tammy, I think I've been pushing as a board member, the committee's Ms. Strickberger, to come to a direction, and she's been agonizing over which way to go to spend $2.4 million. So there's definitely been years, you know, putting a plan together, and it started in 2012. So, you know, I'm all for speed, but at some point, I think we really have to get the community behind us. And the only other thing I see is that with this big effort on visioning, it does seem somehow this should all wrap together and be kind of pushed through a little bit. It feels that way to me. I mean, I'm not saying digital isn't part of the vision, but it seems like we're putting the vision without getting the input of the vision, which is the importance of the visioning. So I don't know how this delay kind of feels better for me that way, so that's all. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Okay, now we'll go on to 3.1. Approval of the May financial. Motion. So moved. There's a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Anderson,
Yes.
Malone,
Yes.
Attorney,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes. Motion passes. Item 3.2, approval of fiscal year 2014 final appropriation resolution of fiscal year 2015 temporary appropriation resolution.
these are typically approved at the end of the year, which it approves the appropriations that we have enough resources to meet all of our obligations. We have to have it certified to the county auditor by June 30th, and then also have to have temporary appropriations to begin to do business starting July 1. So that's what these approvals are for.
Your motion?
So moved.
The second?
Second.
Comments?
So the 2015,
So the 2015 is based on the 5-year forecast that was recently adopted?
The 2015 temporary appropriations, that's just to get us through until the permanent appropriations are approved, which is in September. So this is just a starting point. We just won't exceed any of these amounts before our September final permanent appropriations are put into place. So these are just set based off of at least a portion of our fiscal 14 obligations.
Maybe I'm asking the question incorrectly. So we're closing out the year, but for the 2015 appropriations I'm looking at, we're appropriating, we're going to set aside a temporary appropriation of $31 million.
Right.
The general revenue total appropriation would be $44,665,549. So you're basing these numbers off of the approved 5-year forecast that have recently occurred, correct?
No, the appropriations that I'm asking to be approved here are the temporary appropriations for 15. All of the budgets are not in and all of the revenue is not in for fiscal 15 until after we close the books for 2014. But these have to be approved before we can start business, so therefore we just go ahead and appropriate for the future and future appropriation stream an amount of money that we know we will not exceed before the permanent appropriations are approved in September. So these are just a portion just to get us through until September. Now, obviously, we're not going to get anywhere near that, but we do this so that we don't overspend in any way before we get the permanent appropriations approved. So this is basically saying we will not exceed going over this amount of money before September, which there's no way we will.
Yeah, I appreciate the answer. Maybe I'm not asking the question correctly, so I'm trying.
Okay, it's okay.
If you weren't doing a temporary appropriation, which typically past treasurers, if my recollection is correct, basically went for the full year's appropriation, even though they had an adjustment time frame and all of the numbers.
Right.
So I understand the process. But these numbers at the final appropriation will be based off of the 5-year forecast.
The final 14 ones,
The final 15 ones that you're going forward.
yeah, the 15 ones are temporary. That's why they say temporary. So
Yeah.
when we go to the permanent ones in September, those will be based off of all the 5-year numbers. It's just that it
So these
takes
are
a while.
portion,
to
these
get-
are percentage of the 5-year
Yeah.
numbers at some point.
Yes. And typically, from what I'm used to, what we would normally do is approve the final 14 and say in the resolution to certify that half of the final 14s will be the temporary appropriations for 15. But Warren County does it a little different.
I understand. I guess I'm struggling with given that I'm struggling with the direction of the 5-year forecast, I'm struggling with, I know the need to appropriate, but I'm struggling with recognizing or adopting this as part of that. So I'm not quite in line with the 5-year forecast as presented.
These ones are just what we're appropriating to the county auditor. This is what it states. It states that your final ending cash balance plus your next year's estimated revenues, those two amounts together, your appropriations cannot exceed those amounts. And in no way, we're going to be about 59 million between all funds next year, and I'm only asking to temporarily approve 40.
I understand. And it looks like the general revenue ended at roughly 45,317 for the year, is what you're also projecting.
That's
You have
our-
any appropriation?
Our appropriations, and they are set a little higher because we want to make sure that we don't go over in any way. So as long as we have the cash to support, you always want to go over, because if any encumbrances go over, then you can get a citation for every fund that you go over appropriations. So you always appropriate a little high as long as you have the cash to support it. Not that you're going to spend it, it's just you have your appropriations set higher so you don't run into trouble.
Meaning that meaning we have a reserve of an extra $1 million, give or take.
Just a portion of that set aside just in case.
Yeah, thank you.
Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Malone?
Yes.
Attorney?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes. Motion passes. Item 3.3, approval of payment of invoices, transfers, investment funds, and appropriation adjustments for fiscal year 2015.
This one I'll just comment really quick on. This is typically something we'll do at the organizational meeting, but since had only been on the job 3 days, I'm doing this for next fiscal year. I want to do it now so that starting July 1st, I'm covered to do all of these things, which are typically responsibilities that are already approved at the organizational meeting but under the treasurer's report. So this will start for fiscal 15.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
Any comments? Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Malone?
Yes.
Attorney?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes. Motion passes. 3.4, approval of Alaska R and Shear Consulting Services to provide gap compilation services and provide assistance with the popular annual financial report for fiscal year ending June 30, 2014.
It's a big one, isn't it? This is what I brought to work session and also the budget finance. This is the same company that we've used for 11 years to do our gap conversion and our capper. And when I had a discussion during budget finance and work session that we're going to go with the capper instead, this is a contract to do those two things for fiscal year ending June 30, 2014.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Malone?
Yes.
Attorney?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes. Motion passes. 3.5, approval to use check exchange for electronic check recovery.
This is also, I had also gotten this to the work session. This is a company that'll do our non-sufficient funds checks for us, so it takes it away from the district having to send the letters to the parents. But the collection, this is a check exchange, we'll collect them for us and I have brought it to work session before and budget finance.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Comments? Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Malone?
Yes.
Attorney?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes. Motion passes. And 3.6, approval to use strategic solutions for imaging software and scanning services.
Again, this is, I have brought this to budget finance and work session to approve us to get all of our documents in various locations of our district, all in electronic form.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Malone?
Yes.
Attorney?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes. Motion passes. Item 3.7, approval to increase capitalization threshold for fixed assets from 500 to 5,000.
This is also something I brought to budget finance and the work session to increase our threshold for having to capitalize items under $5,000 or instead of 500.
The motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Malone?
Yes.
Attorney?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes. Motion passes. Item 3.8, approval resolution declaring official intent with respect to reimbursement of temporary advances made for capital expenditures to be made from subsequent borrowing.
Okay, this right here is The children at Dennis and the room, is that Fair Food Company? They are an urgent necessity to be done now. So this resolution will allow us to go ahead and pay for these items to be done now, and then pay ourselves back with the energy conservation funding once it comes in. And it won't come in until either late August or early September. So this will allow us to go ahead and purchase those items now and reimburse ourselves with the energy conservation funds.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I think the children's 8 weeks or something.
It does.
So we're gonna have to start school.
Yeah, so as it is, and if we wait till the funding gets in, then they wouldn't be ready for school, and the roof definitely needs to be replaced before school starts as well. So I got this resolution from our attorney to make sure it was all the correct wording and stuff that would allow us to get reimbursed when it was.
The air that we're looking at this on the first day, you will have lots of pre-arranged speakers. Look at all of you shaking your head.
It's gonna be one.
But we have the new assistant principal from Dennis here, so he'll have to figure out how to make all that work.
Roll call?
Anderson?
Yes.
Malone?
Yes.
Petroni?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, moving on to superintendent's report.
Yes, 4.1 policy revisions, these are second readings, asking for approval of policy revisions as presented. That's policies 2623, 6152, 5610, 5460, and 5200.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Anderson?
Yes.
Malone?
Yes.
Petroni? Stuckey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
4.2, approval of the junior high and high school fees as presented. And Ms. Cook presented those in work session at the last meeting.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson?
Yes.
Malone?
Yes.
Petroni?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
4.3, and I am presenting this tonight. If Mr. Pennell were here, he would be presenting this, and this person will report directly to him. This is approval of the contract for Kathleen Ford. She will be our nutritionist for the district. You know, Sarah Matthews is retiring. However, her contract will be 225 days instead of 215. This particular person has a bachelor's degree and is a certified dietitian and comes to us with 25 years of experience. So this salary, to my understanding, is about $10,000 more than we're paying now. But we are going to be picking up a lot of expertise that will allow that expertise to eliminate some of perhaps the other ways that we have to pay companies to give us advice from time to time when it comes to dietetics throughout the district.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson?
Yes.
Malone?
Yes.
Petroni?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
4.4, this is to employ the principal of Springboro Intermediate School, Mr. John Franks, and he's actually here tonight, John. John is going to be, well, depending on your vote, he is being recommended to be the principal of Springboro Intermediate School, and I really look forward to working with John. He will be on a 2-year contract, 220 days, $81,000 a year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson?
Yes.
Malone?
Yes.
Petroni?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes.
Motion passes.
4.5, approval of the administrative contract. The audio system approves as well, Bill.
Yeah.
4.5 is the administrative contract of Robin Berger. He is going to be the assistant principal at the high school since Jimmy Akers is moving to the junior high. He is coming to us from West Carrollton. He's had experience there as an administrator. He will have a 2-year contract, 220 days, and $78,000 a year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson,
Yes.
Malone,
Yes.
Attorney,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next, we have the administrative contract of Brandon Grubenoff. He is going to be the assistant principal at Dennis Elementary. Now, his contract is a little different in the sense it is, and we did this last year, but this year I wanted to formalize it in the contract. It's a 185-day contract with up to 10 extended days per the superintendent's approval at his per diem. So the reason we're doing that is sometimes they need that, sometimes they don't. But right now, we do see that, especially having a new principal, we need this person 5 days after and 5 days before. Due to the fact that last year was the first year that we had an assistant principal at Dennis for 5 points, we're still trying to work through what we actually need there. Eventually, I will come to you and say, we need a 205 contract or a 210, and we'll solidify it at that point. But right now, instead of just jumping out there and perhaps getting more days than we need, which escalates the cost, we're just trying to work into it to see exactly what we do.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson,
Yes.
Malone,
Yes.
Attorney,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes.
Motion passes.
4.7, approval of administrative contract. Actually, I wanted to introduce Brandon. I apologize, Brandon, you can stand up. He will be the assistant principal again. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, 4.7 is approval of administrative contract for Kim Northgate. She will be our elementary special ed coordinator, which is a new position we've added. We'll pay for out of our CCIP. This will be a 230-day contract. It's 220.
230 is for our secondary curriculum specialist.
So this needs to be 220.
It needs to be 220.
Okay. So this
That's
will,
what the contract was written as of today, it just didn't get in.
right, that was taken from our secondary specialist.
Yes.
Since she came over from the high school principal's position, we left it at 230. So this will be a 220-day contract, 2 years in length, at $80,000 per year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson,
Yes.
Malone,
Yes.
Attorney,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Kim is here this evening. Kim, if you'd like to.
Hi.
Once again, the audio system approves. Next, we have Tracy Griffin's contract. She is actually the assistant principal at 5 Points Elementary. In order to bring our contracts of our 2 elementary assistants up to cohesion with each other, we also want to add to her contract up to 10 extended days approved by the superintendent at her per diem rate. We did this last year, but it wasn't part of her contract. So now it will be formally a part of her contract.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson,
Yes.
Malone,
Yes.
Attorney,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes.
Motion passes.
4.9, approval of donation for $7,314.59 from the Springboro Athletic Boosters to purchase a John Deere Gator. I look forward to driving that.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson,
Yes.
Malone,
Yes.
Attorney,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Director of Human Services.
5.1, we are asking approval to modify exempt personnel. This is the approval to modify an exempt position, our network specialist 2, to creating technology network specialist. And we did provide you and the community with a job description online. So we ask for approval of that item tonight.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson,
Yes.
Malone,
Yes.
Petroni,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes.
Motion passes.
5.2 is approval for classified personnel for training. This is for our Melissa Fall, who is going to be our new secretary at Dennis Elementary. We are asking for approval for 6 training days as Ms. Roxana Sharp is transitioning out. Given a lot of it being that the Dennis Elementary office staff, a lot of them are retiring. So between Mrs. Ray and Mrs. Sharp, we are looking for some training for that transition period before school begins.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson,
Yes.
Malone,
Yes.
Petroni,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes.
Motion passes.
5.3 is the approval to create a certified position. This is something that we have talked about in work session. This is to create an additional high school intervention specialist. That position is due to the increase in student enrollment and our numbers in special education.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson,
Yes.
Malone,
Yes.
Petroni,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 5.4, we are looking for approval tonight to create a certified position. That has also been talked about in work session as we are realigning our gifted services. This is an approval to create a new certified position in 6th through 8th grade for an additional gifted intervention specialist.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson,
Yes.
Malone,
Yes.
Petroni,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 5.5 is approval to modify classified position. This is for our preschool. We are requesting approval to modify the preschool educational assistant position from 161 days to 171 contract days. This is part of, since we have the new preschool this year, looking at the needs of our additional personnel that serve our preschool. We are looking for 10 additional days for approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson,
Yes.
Malone,
Yes.
Petroni,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 5.6 is approval to modify certified position. This is going to be for occupational and physical therapists, which align with what I just talked about, adding from 118 days to 129 days due to the needs, individual needs of our preschool students at this time.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson,
Yes.
Malone,
Yes.
Petroni,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes.
Motion passes. And 5.7.
5.7 is the approval to reduce and force the full-time administrative position of gifted coordinator due to financial reasons. This is approval to reduce and force the full-time administrative position of gifted coordinator due to those financial reasons. We are looking at, we do not, with our numbers and our state mandates, we do not any longer need to fulfill a full-time person. And we are looking at using a per diem basis through the county as needed.
So the savings there will be reinvested into a teacher. And that's what's going to pay for the 6 through 8 GIS. So there'll be a little bit in addition to that, but not a lot.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Anderson,
Yes.
Malone,
Yes.
Petroni,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 5.8, this evening, the last item for my report. This is the approval of personnel items. As you look through, we have 14 pages of approval. One thing that I would like to highlight is the effective dates. Some are 2013, 2014, which is still this year, because some of these positions are through June 30th, so they will still be on this fiscal year. The rest of them will be for next year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Question, roll call?
Question, please. Items 5 through 13. Those are replacement positions, or those new additional FTEs, or?
These are all due to retirements or resignations. Except for number 5. And that's for our technology approval that you gave a little earlier. The rest are due to staffing. There were no increases, just replacements for those positions.
Thank you.
Item number 21, just the approval of a supplemental contract for an individual for the fall program advertising sales. Is that a new position, or I'm assuming this person goes out, gets ads, the ads are in the fall program, and is it the district benefits in from the 70%? Where is that? How does this work financially?
Mr. Petrie, can you,
I can't.
I can't either. Is this from the athletic department?
That's a very good
I'm
question.
sure it is. Dave?
Yeah, I talked to Matt earlier today, and I think, is that for Kyle Euchre?
Yes, sir.
Okay. He does, goes out and gets for the program and stuff like that. I think from what he said, it's 30% that he will get as his stipend, and then the rest goes to the program that he got with. That's what I believe is explained.
I would be more than happy to find out.
How
more
much is that
information.
supplemental for?
It just says 30% of fall ad sales, so there is not a specific amount.
So he's going out and selling it. His overhead is 30%, the school gets that.
Did he bring that to work session? Mr. Lewis?
No, sir.
We're gonna pull that out because you should have that in work session.
I think, if I can remember from years gone by, we've used this concept before. It seemed like a one-time, perhaps our wrestling coach may have been the person who did that. And again, I don't know much else about it, except that's not a totally new concept.
Right.
It's just, it was a little bit open-ended, and that's why
Right.
I asked the question.
Well, I appreciate it. That's not been brought to work session or either of us. And quite frankly, Mr. Westerfield's here to work with me on a different project, and we do the same thing with him on a lot of things. So before we duplicate services, I certainly would like to make sure that we're not violating any contracts that we already have in place with other companies. So that is not protocol in terms of bringing something to work session first. So, thank you for drawing that to our attention. We'll exclude item, is it 21?
Yes.
Yes. And it's nothing against Mr. Euchre. He is a great guy, great coach, and an outstanding teacher. However, we do need to know when we're doing something like that.
I'd like for approval, and I'll make the change to the main item. Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Maloney?
Yes.
Petroni?
Yes, as amended.
Stuckey?
Yes.
Motion passes as amended. We're going to have a report on this, or we just go to item 6.1.
Well, 6.1, we eliminated, basically tabled that until next meeting. We will put the survey back out. And I definitely want the board members to look at all the survey information that is there so far for you to make an informed decision. So we will move on to the business manager's report.
Who
The business manager?
no, who will be emailing this information? So,
Ms. Strickenberger and of course, Ms. Cook as well. And then also probably Mrs. DeRosa as well. So you're gonna have 3 different people. We're gonna put it on Facebook, that it's out there. I would like to possibly even do an auto call since we're now in the summer to let parents know that the survey is there because we do want to get parent feedback.
absolutely. Okay. Okay, 7.1.
Yeah, I'll be filling in for John tonight as the business manager. We would like approval to renew the property liability and fleet insurance with Liberty Mutual. This needs to be renewed by July 1st. We are going to see a 30% increase, which is $30,000. Each year, this will get updated. It was sent out through school insurance consultants. They sent it out to 8 different companies, and only 3 were willing to give a quote. Our usage rate over the last 3 years, I think, totaled 125%, and this year alone was 100%. Part of the problem is we had the chiller at Clear Creek go down. We had a major flood at Jonathan Wright, and then, of course, over the winter with all the pipes freezing, we had those issues. So we have had a lot of usage on this particular insurance policy, so it will be a 30% increase, and that will be through Liberty Mutual.
Motion?
So moved.
I'll second for some discussion.
Any discussions?
Yeah, I guess I don't know anything about the companies, understand the issues. I guess I'm a little confused with the low deductibles that we have. And we're $59 million organization, and we've got a $500 deductible, a $2,500 deductible. So that, typically, I guess my only question is when my auto insurance spikes or my homeowner insurance spikes, I kind of look at ways to save. But you spec'd out, and maybe in this world you can go to a $20,000 or $30,000 deductible and you don't save $30,000 or $40,000 in the bottom line. I don't know. I guess I'm curious if we've priced that as question, comment 1. And then, is the automobile piece, the 7782, is that our bus fleet? Is that what that relates to?
We do have some service vehicles as well that our maintenance guys drive and our technology people. I think we have 4 or 5 vans, 3 or 4 trucks. We also have ATV equipment as well that we use to plow the various sidewalks around the district. So we have multiple vehicles that are insured throughout the district.
Because our buses and other vehicles probably.
Yes. And I tell you, Mr. Petroni, what we can do on this, we need to establish the insurance policy to be covered, but we can always negotiate modification to the deductibles as well. Unfortunately, Mr. Pennell's not here. I really can't tell you if reducing a deductible would save on an insurance policy of this magnitude like it would on car insurance, right? Instead of a $500 deductible, you go to $1,000.
Or 50,000, it was for argument's sake.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's worth exploring, but,
I mean, yeah, I don't know, that means to modify the motion and table. I mean, I know you got till July 1st, isn't it like a 30-day grace period after it too, typically to?
but odds are we will not have a board meeting before July 1st. We have one scheduled for the 24th, but we really don't need to have it. Plus, we're gonna have numerous people out of town, so we're probably wanting to push that back till July 10th or July 22nd till we really need it. So we need coverage, but the coverage can always be changed, and the contract can be amended at future board meetings. Right now, we just need coverage.
I gotta believe a phone call. So you're presuming the low bidder is Liberty at the moment, which it looks like they are by a couple dollars on 2 of 3. I mean, I gotta believe 3 phone calls. I don't know. I guess I'm not trying to, if it's and I guess the guidance would be, what guidance would you need from us to pick a number? I mean, would you go up to $50,000 as a deductible, for example, or is that too extreme?
What we could do is bring back all the options and say $50,000 deductible saves this much, 70,000 saves this, 100,000 saves this.
Or 20, and then you can go down too.
Right, we can modify the contract afterwards.
Unless we self-insure. You could self-insure up to a number too, right? Self-insure for 100,000,
Good.
100,000 every year.
Especially if you're gonna see a 30% increase every year.
I mean, this has been a $100,000 hit every year, and we're not winning. We might as well. Whatever you want to do, guys. I just didn't. I thought a $500 and $2,500 deductible and a $1,000 deductible seemed a little bit low. So it just seems like.
I agree.
The thing to look at, we also, it's really important to look at how many claims we have and how much, if our deductible was higher, how much money we would have had to pay out for all of these weeks of claims versus what we had to, ended up having to pay out. So I know we had someone fall through the roof.
Oh,
and-
okay, one claim after
We've
another
had
in the
some
past
scares.
16 months.
But that's a good idea, so.
I think we could prove. It's a good point, but some of our facilities that haven't been maintained, it's catching up with us. Unfortunately, this now, we knew this all along, we had no idea it was 30%. So for now, we just need coverage before July 1st, but we can explore that. We have to check that out.
Thank you.
Good idea. Okay, roll call?
Anderson?
Yes.
Malone?
Yes.
Petroni?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes.
Motion passes. 8.1, board member reports. Mr. Stuckey?
Real quick, our ladies track team had a pretty good showing this past weekend up at the state meet. Andrea, I believe her name is it Lucy? 3,200 state champion. We had Ellie Wiedemann, I believe, finished third in her race, which was one of the hurdles. And help me with this one, was it Keaton? Keaton Case finished sixth in her race, which was what was the
800 meter run.
800-meter run. Okay. One of the things about Andrea that's pretty amazing was that she's played tennis up to this year and was pretty good at it. And then decided to run cross country in the fall and track this spring and finished first in the state. So must be a pretty good athlete. That's all I have.
Mr. Petroni?
The only common request that I continue to try and find a way to moderate some of our debates and things that seem to be coming off as confrontational when they're really good questions. It is getting some, I'm sure, frustrating to those involved through the emails. I just would ask for some deference. If there's a way to find a better way to answer questions when asked versus have debates, I would greatly appreciate that. Otherwise, I think
I'd like to congratulate all the graduates on Saturday. It was a wonderful ceremony, and weather was cooperating, and it was just a great day overall. So again, about 380-some students graduated, and they're now out in the world.
In respect to Mr. Regano, who couldn't make the meeting tonight, anybody want to say anything about fourth grade?
if you ask, well, if you ask, he has definitely been concerned about core curriculum, right? And, you know, the interesting part for me is I've kind of stayed a little bit quiet, Mr. President, on it, because I don't know if the state's actually going to keep Common Core. And I think everything we do to kind of moderate and maybe pedal back a little bit of things, it's a good reason just to wait, because they can't seem to figure things out sometimes, I think Columbus is related to some of those.
That's for sure.
So I know that he would echo the fact that he's not for Common Core.
That's all I was looking for.
But I will keep the comments to that. Thank you for the watch, thank you for the guidance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The only thing I had, graduation was fun, and hats off to all the, I'm sure the many people that orchestrated that. Everybody I talked to, parents, everybody, it's just, we have, let's give this dog a round.
It was all me.
It went very
No,
well.
there's a lot of people involved in making sure that.
It was well orchestrated, so.
Thank goodness Mr. Munch was there to help me get my road on.
Well, I had some good trainers.
Yeah.
Okay, item 9.1, public announcements. We have a mission vision meeting on the 23rd, and those are both at Clear Creek.
No, the morning one is actually in the high school library, the evening one is at the Kaufman Y, and we're combining those with the principal events.
Right.
That'll be good night, good night. And then also on July 10th, we will have the Mission and Vision presenting at the Chamber of Commerce breakfast, the networking breakfast, and all of you are invited to that as well. Lastly, future considerations before moving on to that. I would like to propose that we not have the June 24th board meeting. People in my office definitely need some time off right now. We're relatively caught up. We have a few loose ends with hiring, but I think if we have a meeting, definitely on July 22nd and possibly on July 10th. We're waiting to see how things unfold. If that's the case, that would be a special meeting, which means we would need a specific agenda, probably a little shorter than usual. And I will definitely inform you well in advance of that. But as of right now, we do not need the 24th board meeting.
Okay. With that, we'll convene for a work session and take a 5-minute break.
And that's going to be the gist of it.
Any questions? Okay. 11.3.
Yes, Andrea, Ms. Cook is bringing some information to you. We found out this past week that our kids no longer will be allowed to leave early or arrive late at the high school level. And Andrea is going to give you the new information that was passed in law at the state level, which complicates quite a few of our plans, especially now that the entire schedule is built, and now we're going to have to rework it. So that June 20th date, well, that just went right out the window. So Andrea here is to talk a little bit more about that and give you some specific facts about what options we have, which I think it's crystal clear what we need to do. But nonetheless, she and the high school counselors have met probably 4 or 5 hours over the past 2 days to discuss various options.
We were informed by our attorneys last Tuesday with regard to the days to hours discussion. And part of the presentation from the attorneys that we accessed stated that we would not be able to allow students to leave early or to arrive late. This was backed as well by the Ohio Department of Education. We've done quite a bit of research on this in hopes that we could find a loophole. One does not seem to exist. Is that okay? Is that better?
Very good.
Okay. The Ohio Revised Code 3313.48 goes over the change from minimum hours to minimum hours from minimum days. Our students currently attend for 178 days at 6.5 hours. For our secondary kids, we are not able to include lunch, so some of you may be saying, no, wait a minute, they're here longer than that. But they are considered at 6.5 hours per day for a total of 1,157 hours for the year. The minimum number of hours that they are required as of July on is 1,001. So if you get your calculator and you do the math, you say, well, our students already attend for 148 hours over, so why can't we release them for their study hall period? But the Ohio Department of Education has stepped in along with this Ohio Revised Code and blocked us from that option unless we take what I would consider a pretty serious hit on our funding. So any student who comes late or leaves early, we would be funded at 6/7 as opposed to the entire student's state funding. The total for the amount of students that we have, the amount of requests are 857. And those requests are for 2 semesters, so it doesn't necessarily mean we have 857 students, but rather 857 requests for the 2 semesters, equaling out right around $139,000 to $140,000 cost to the district should we continue with this plan. As Mr. Petrie said, I met extensively with our preschool guidance department, as well as consulted with other principals in the area. And most of the high schools in the area, I say most because there's only one that I'm aware of that has not brought their students back in without a plan for them. Most high schools are bringing the students back and assigning them a study hall. And that seems to be the most popular choice. We did have the opportunity, Mrs. Dollar participated as well with the High Schools at Work Administrative Retreat last Thursday, so we did have the opportunity to talk to a lot of the administrators in the Southwest Ohio region to find out what their solution to this was. And it is our recommendation that we bring those students back into the high school, assign them a study hall, and if there is an elective course that does have seats available in it, then we allow those students, if they are interested, to sign up to take that elective course. I certainly do not foresee where we might find $140,000 to be able to move forward with the implementation of late arrival early release as planned. The one thing that I do regret is that this information came out after we've been working extensively on our schedule, thereby pushing back the date of completion. Are there any questions with regard to this?
Andrea, when you're talking about bringing it back in, maybe this is simplistic, but you're talking about bringing it back in then either in the like first period or 10th period. I mean, the student has already dismissal. You'd have them in 10th period study hall if they come back in. So, or if they have the late arrival, they'd come in at first period, whereas I assume they'd be in second period normally. Is that?
Yes, you're correct.
So we're talking about is this bulge? It's going to be in 2 periods a day. It's not going to be equally spread out, which is going to compound the problem even more, isn't it?
Well, we can't do that. What we have to do is we have to recode the early release and late arrival into a study hall period and rerun the schedule of program,
Okay.
thereby
Change that whole
yes,
schedule.
changing up the entire master schedule. We're currently looking at about 140 students per period in study hall. If we're able to do a perfect balance, which that's impossible, but we can come pretty close. With the software we're using, we can come pretty close to balancing. We're looking at about 200 to 210 kids in each of the study hall periods. There's no way we can accommodate all of the students on the first and 10th study hall. There's no place to put them. So we are talking about a rerun of the entire schedule.
Well, another option we're looking at, which I'm going to bring in a future meeting, is I would like to have an athletic coordinator, not an assistant director, but something that usually pays around $30,000 or less. Because we're getting with our sports right now, where all of our athletic director does is chase everything. He can't do anything outside of that hardly. And we give very little attention to our junior high sports. So if we choose to bring this person on, we may have that person do some study halls during the day as well. Because our other option with this is to hire teachers and provide more electives. But again, we're going to start digging ourselves a financial hole if we do that. Because the state, this is just the first of some of the changes that they have. And I supported kids coming late and leaving because the number one reason kids fail in college is they can't handle the independence. And when they're able to come late or leave early, it teaches them that sense of independence while they're in high school. But they're also looking at requiring internships and all kinds of things, which we're ahead of the game on that with Project Lead the Way, but we still have a lot to do. But all of that comes with additional cost. So this is just one of several things when we start looking at these things, because to build internships takes people. And clearly, when you compare us to a lot of these schools who want to be compared to Oakwood and places like that, we don't have near the staff some of these districts do. So these things, they're pretty painful when they hit like this. This one's a tough one, $139,000 if we don't change. Now, we could have the mentality if the state catches us. That's just wrong to have that mentality to begin with. So I think we're going to adapt, but we are going to see an increase in study hall sizes, definitely. And we may have to come back and say we need study hall monitors or something to that effect.
I guess I know the obvious question is don't take the hit. It's a one-time capital hit, and you've got time to work it out for next year, so it's not so invasive. I mean, kids are already planned, parents are already planned, you've already planned. I'm not advocating spending this money this way, but I could say we have $50,000 in another place, this would be a little less painful. So, you know, we could, maybe,
But the kids have not seen their schedules yet, correct?
No.
So this is not going to be a drastic change to the kids by any means.
I mean, they requested it, so they've already figured they're getting early release, and now we're taking the policy off, that they want to be early release or at the policy. That's the request for policy change, which sounds like it's gonna cost us money. Anyway, it's not, maybe not 140,000, you just enumerated these 2 employees at some number, I don't know what they cost, 1,000 each. So you're not, this isn't a zero cost decision. The question is it a $100,000 decision or is it a $140,000 decision?
I think the most we would need would be an aide. One extra aide, we have 2 study hall monitors currently. So if we're looking at taking numbers from 140 to 200, we would be looking at the most, that 1 extra study hall monitor throughout the day. I believe that we are able to, with the space that we have 5 periods of the day that we're able to have study hall in the commons, which we can see a lot more students during those periods. And so when we get out during the lunches, we're limited by space. We have a classroom behind the gym. We can seat 75. And we have the LGI whereby we can seat 126. So we're not looking at anything more, at the very most, a full-time study hall monitor, at the most.
I can't see you taking a $100,000 hit right now, though. I mean, we have other staff that we're stretching as far as we can, not to have to hire anyone. Then just to turn around and take a $100,000 hit on this with the way we've stretched some other areas, it'd be tough. It'd be tough. I think staff would be at a loss as to, you just turn this down, but yet you're not gonna add here, you're not gonna add here, you're not gonna add here, and we're gonna have more kids. It'd be tough for us not to do something aggressive.
And the reason we met with, and quizzed other principals in the area was, we didn't want to be out of that limb doing something different than everybody else. We don't want to be the sole school that's either, I hate to say this, but, and this came up in some of our conversations with staff, we'll just do it, and if they catch you, they catch you. That is not how I work. Most of the schools, all but one, are bringing their students back. There is one school that is hiring additional staff to offer electives. I'm not aware of any school that is allowing students to stay out and paying the penalty. I think we would be going rogue if we say, to keep our word, we're gonna throw out $140,000. I believe in the program, that's why I brought it to you back in January or February. I do not believe in losing $140,000 and not gaining anything for that.
Well, you know, the tough part of these board meetings is we come, and even with board members, oftentimes all we're talking about is what we're wanting to add. But the day-to-day operations of what we don't add will probably double what we're adding. I don't think that's what is so unfortunate when you look at growing an organization, and you want people to see where you are being conservative and you are tightening your belt and you are stretching that dollar, but yet making sure kids get what they need. We don't get to do that very much in board meetings. All we do is add, and that's how it appears. So this is one of those times.
It almost seems to me that what makes the most sense is what you're talking about, is bring them back in, absorb the disruption that's created this year by having to rerun the schedule, add a study hall monitor, whatever, and then during the 14-15 year, search for alternatives that are legal, that wouldn't result in a financial penalty for ways for students to get out of school, perhaps for the upcoming year. But kind of absorb the uncomfortableness now and say, okay, yes, we have to do this, but we're going to really work as a goal to figure out a way of allowing our students to come later early.
Well, the good thing about this, it may increase our dual enrollment. We don't know. Maybe kids will get more college credit and be able to stay right on campus. So,
Isn't this along the line with, we're going to have to start counting monthly too to get our students?
It is.
Yes, I don't want to let Ms. Kara answer that question.
Yeah, there's a whole industry design that's coming out starting in fiscal 15, and you're counting every student every day, and you only have 30 days to make changes. And say somebody takes 45 days to get a change in the system, you lose 15 days of funding because you can only go back 30 days. So there's going to be a lot of internal this is going to affect us.
Well, for example, in special ed, if they have an IEP meeting and those IEP adjustments are not in within 30 days, we lose our funding every single day for that child until it's updated. That's part of the reason that we will have the new elementary special education person as well, so that we're able to combat that, because she's sitting there, so for every day we go over 30 days, we just deduct that from her salary.
Yeah, because we used to have till October to get all of the changes in, and then between October and the end of the year, we have that time to get those changes in.
If our contract would have been up this year, we would have had to have gone to hours next year. Since our contract is up next summer, the following year, we will have to abide by the hours instead of days. That's how the state, it's kind of like OTES. That's how they started things up. So nonetheless, we will keep you updated on the final decision, bring that back before you, but we did want to let you know because odds are we're going to have to move forward with changing those schedules. We have no idea how this ripple effect is going to impact the whole organization. So we'll find out quickly though.
Thank you.
Okay, move on to item 24.
Learning.com contracts. You will see that you had attached 5 documents. One of those documents should not be on your attachment. You want to look at the orders that are dated 5/22 at the top, those quotes. These are quotes that are within the 5-year forecast within the curriculum department for a company called Learning.com for our students in grades 2nd through 8th. This is a software that we would use within all of our computer courses, grades 2 through 8. It streamlines their computer education, starting out with a web safety course that can also be used for grades 9 through 12, which we would like to see as part of our Bring Your Own Technology policy. We do, as you probably know, receive money by following the Children's Internet Protection Act. Those are federal funds we receive for our wireless. And part of that act requires that we provide internet safety for all students. So in so doing, we hope that this program will allow us a rollout that has grade level appropriate internet safety, and that this is used district-wide for safety, and that we're looking at the possibility of students at the younger grade levels having a digital driver's license, so when they complete their safety program, they are allowed to bring their own equipment in. This software allows students to practice on a learning management system. They talk about logons, internet searches, spreadsheets, databases, word processing, graphics, web design. They also practice Park-like assessment tools such as cut and paste, copy paste, drag and drop, reading of number lines that they will see on their online assessments, and in the upper grades, basic coding on the computer. You'll note that the pricing on this is $4,660. We did obtain quotes on a 3-year basis as well as a 1-year. And my recommendation to Ms. Romas, who's spearheading this endeavor, was to go with the 1 year as opposed to the 3-year, so that we can see how it works within our system, rather than grab the discount now and possibly say, you know what, we could probably fine-tune this in years to come, perhaps without the Learning.com delivery method. This is for 4 buildings at $4,660 per building, already within the 5-year forecast.
So it's $20,000 roughly versus $41,000 for 3 years.
18,640 versus the 41 years. So if you look at it over a 3-year period, perhaps you're looking at that and saying, seems a no-brainer to go with the 41,000. However, this is a product that we want to make sure is going to work for our youngsters and our systems.
Yeah, I mean, good direction. Like all contracts, maybe there's some discount that you can negotiate if you decide to take it for the following years up to $18,000. You just spent the first $40,000, so that's.
I wouldn't be surprised. We've worked pretty extensively with the rep in this company, so it wouldn't surprise me that we're able to get a better contract in years to come on.
Is this consistent with our systems?
Yes, it is. This is a web-based program. So it will work with on our Chromebooks, our desktop that we have in room here, and our laptops throughout the district.
Has there been any sampling or any prototypes on the board? Pilot? Thank you.
We have not piloted with students. We have had the reps come in and the teachers, the computer teachers in grades 2 through 12, we used to train them too, came in for training and they have had access to the program and they are supporting the program.
My son has it, King, and I'll tell you, if he gets up on Saturday mornings, he can get on it on his own at 7 years old. It is quite the outstanding program. And what we did is consolidated a lot of the other programs that we had and used the money differently. Instead of having the programs we've had for the last 10 years that we just were purchasing because we've always purchased them, the tech department and the curriculum department joined teams and consolidated those and selected ones based on the needs of the kids. So
Just as entry level as typing, I think we have 5 or 6 different programs within the district.
right.
So we have lack of consistency. Anything else I can answer?
Discussion or comments?
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
Item 25, John. what's the-
Yeah, I'll take care of it. I've actually worked with the boosters on this the entire time, and John handles the contract. Today he's out, so I handled it myself. But we would like to enter into a contract with our boosters, our athletic boosters, a 5-year contract, and the reason for that is they want to invest in the concessions and things of that nature. You have the contract there to preview. It's very similar to the contracts that we've had in the past with them. I will say though, on behalf of the boosters, they should have their 501(c) this summer. They are now working together as a booster board. Our athletic director answers questions on behalf of the district. They're writing their own policies, bylaws, and sharpening those up. For example, this year, when we went for the weight room, I even got an email from them that said, Mr. Peters, we will need 3 bids, or it will not be up for approval. They've really clamped down on how they are spending money and holding people accountable, which is, I worked with them last year and have overseen it the past 16 months. And they've made leaps and bounds changes with Afsu McClellan and Joey Gilkinson and a lot of the parents who are on there. They've really come a long way. So as your superintendent, I'm telling you, I have no hesitations for entering into a contract with them for 5 years. And I hope you'll see the same. And if you have any questions about that contract between now and our next board meeting, if you can email me those. Actually, it'd be easier if you work with Mr. Anderson, so where you can talk about it, and then Charles and I will talk a little bit more about it. And if a change needs to be made, I'll be happy to negotiate that change with you.
Yeah, the only one I've noticed some email traffic on, and I kind of echo the email traffic on accountability reporting. Yeah, I don't know what this organization will be someday when it gets back together, but last count it had maybe $200,000-300,000 of liquidity, maybe, possibly, depending on, I don't know, I haven't seen, I saw a checkbook, it had some number in the 6 figures. I don't remember what it was. And I haven't seen anything but check registers. So I think if we're gonna, in this particular case, it's an organization, it's gonna be on our grounds. I really think we ought to put in, I mean, for a $54 million organization, we spent an audit fee for $6,000. You would think there could be some reporting of balance sheet and budgets and something in detail that would be into this contract, so that every year, every quarter, every something, it actually is an account, it is something that an accountant would understand besides a check register.
I actually did.
And maybe I'm missing it, but I've only seen check registers for them.
Yeah. When I talked to Jenny Wilkinson, she said they have an athletic booster meeting. I'm not sure if it's quite every month, but close to every month. And the financials are approved during those meetings, and they go extensively into everything that they have done for the entire month. And she told me I'm more than welcome to come to this meeting. So what I'm going to try to do is start going to this meeting. The financials they do provide for you do have the balance sheet on the front of what they started out
income statements and everything? I mean, that's sort of
This
like,
is all required by the 501(c)(3). The federal government that oversees the 501(c)(3), they have to have all of that in there to report to the federal government.
it's a 990 tax return that they have to do, and within that have come some disclosures. But usually under contracts or revenues, it's lump sum disclosures. I work a lot with 501(c)(3), so I'm pretty, actually I was familiar that this was a problem. So I guess I'm only saying, if we're gonna put something in the contract, you asked about a contract comment. I would like to have some sort of fiscal reporting that is detailed, that is audit, it is the right definitions that meet standards of audit practices or accounting practices. That so it is 3 forms and a balance sheet and a copy of a check statement, whatever those words are. For 5 years, it's something that's either quarterly, monthly, annually, whatever it is, it's part of this contract, and that becomes a if that is not adhered to, it becomes a contract.
They do provide quarterly reporting of their financials. We can ask them to give us details as they want. It's up to us how detailed we would like it to be.
Well, I'm asking for definitions, and you can get, there's nothing in here that I'm looking at right now that talks about any type of.
So yeah, we can definitely get something from the mayor.
I guess my comment is, and whatever you want to add in there is great. 9210 goes into some specifics on that. But on the same side of that, if we're going to impose that on the boosters, then we have PTO organizations, the band organizations, and what we're running into is these people are all volunteers. And the more red tape that we impose on people, the less people want to get involved. For example, right now, the boosters, they have a very difficult time getting people involved. Our PTOs, we could hardly get people this year to take the president, the vice president, and secretaries because they were all scared to death of everything that was required by the district. Now, that makes the district sound really cruel when, quite frankly, what the district was requiring, I've had in every district. We're just not following our policies.
I need to check that out as well. And
Right.
in other districts, every other district, they provide the exact same things that we're being provided. So, we can look at more items. If we're, concerned, we can look at more items, but I do agree that, since they are all volunteers, we're actually getting pretty detailed information for what we will get in those requests.
Again, you asked for my comments, quick inputs, nice reports when you push a button. There's other accounting software out there that you push a button and you get a balance sheet, you get an end of your statement. Just something that has, they gotta give something to their auditor to get a 990 filed, so there's gotta be something that they gotta do. It's nothing I'm not asking for them to create something they don't have to give to their accountants, but I think it's reasonable to ask. So if you say no, that's fine. I'm just off, you asked for comments, and that was the first comment that I had. I don't want it to be onerous. It's just, they gotta give something to their accountant every year to fill out 990.
thanks for those comments.
You're welcome. Thanks for your
And
time.
just to let you guys know, Mr. Pinnell, can't sit still, he's already sent an email to the insurance provider to see about those. Their contract's approved, but we will have some options for you guys for the next couple of weeks to take a look at. Technology's great. 24/7. The electric leaks, you can't go home without.
The only other question I have in the contract, and maybe this is okay too, but it looks like, and I guess this is okay, I don't have a frame of reference. But so, I don't care how to frame this, without it being. So they buy a lot of equipment, and they're using our facilities, but something 10 years from now, or 5 years, or 3 years from now happens, and I doubt it will. And if they're asking to keep all the equipment in rights, it's kind of like when all of a sudden our program would go away. So is it unreasonable to say that for the opportunity to service, that equipment kind of becomes ownership of the Springboro Community City Schools as the opportunity to have that right versus to have, and I don't know if that's unfair or unreasonable, I'm just asking, because at the end of the day, we'll need concession stands that someone's gonna have to run, and we're not charging rent or anything, we're kind of making this an opportunity for people to eat and drink and do that stuff, so it's an idea, really have it's not a hammer I'm trying to throw out there, I'm just asking. And I don't know what kind of equipment, I mean, if they're buying a $10,000 refrigerator, maybe we should be buying a refrigerator. I shouldn't say that, maybe we should provide a refrigerator, but
Don't be signing us up for anything now.
I think they, don't they own
They do.
the stuff in the concession stand? They bought it.
They do, and they're looking at leasing, but to answer your question, they don't have any like big ovens or refrigerators. They've gone to where it's more easily dispersed, non-perishable type items. So I guess we would have to find out is how much, property.
well, maybe there's an inventory that needs to be part of this, it's there.
They do have an inventory, though. They keep all of that. That's part of the 501(c).
Well, different definitions of inventory, so they've got equipment that they're in our space, that's the inventory I'm talking about, I'm not talking about food and stuff.
The thing is, though, they've worked some different deals with us that, like the soffits out there, they want to repair those and pay for that. So it's almost kind of a like in kind type.
We get in the building
Right.
and maintain it, right?
Well, we maintain it, but they have given us money to it. I don't want us to leave here thinking that we charge them a rent or we're not paying to keep that building running, because we do. But they also, if we tried to take the concessions over, which we looked at very seriously, we definitely would not pull much of a profit if we did it all. We'd have to hire some people there to get investment.
That's not the conversation that I'm even bringing up, so I don't want the record having any context that that's a part of this conversation that I'm not talking about. I just want to make sure that the record is clear. I'm just talking about a couple items in the contract that maybe you can tweak.
Well, it is.
As far as the equipment, though, but.
And maybe it's not worth tweaking, I don't know.
Equipment stuff.
If we can look at
I don't know.
it, they give a lot to our kids, so it's really hard to determine for, for what we gain from them being volunteers, what our students gain from them being volunteers, and actually the district, quite frankly. Is it worth having a discussion over? It's something we could look at. I have no idea what their property out there is worth. I can find out.
Yeah, it's a good point. My guess is it's not gonna be worth much. You're not gonna have.
And what they're moving into is leasing everything, so if they all of a sudden went out, it'd be on them.
I wouldn't do it.
Okay. I didn't know what they were doing, I'm just giving you comments of what's in this contract, so I appreciate the time on that.
Well, any questions you may have, let me know, or actually work through Charles, and Charles and I, we meet often, so I'd be happy to work with Afson and Jody to make any adjustments needed.
11.6, public participation. Seeing none. 11.7, discussion of other business as required. Is there any other business?
I just have a question, back to the scheduling issue, and the possibility of needing another study hall monitor. Is it in any way helpful if the board authorized you all to hire that person once the scheduling process is done, rather than wait for the next board meeting? It sounds like that's a very real possibility.
Well, we're in high school for so long, you sit there thinking, oh, I hate to be in that situation. What do you think, Andrew? Yeah.
Our study monitor, please have
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I just don't want a hang-up, because this is a lot of work that's gotta be done over the summer.
Nick, we're looking at 3 spaces, so having that additional individual would be very helpful. If we should have to go with a certain period where we have folks in the commons, the G117 behind the gym, as well as the LGI. So if we're splitting folks into
Well,
different places, that would be quite helpful.
The other option is, in work session today, we're telling you we need to do something, so at the next board meeting, we might be bringing that for approval. So the discussion has, but if you're okay with that, that would be the easiest way to do it, where we don't have to pack up and amend and all those types of things. We're asking that, we're gonna have to put something together to make this work. So we'll probably bring something either July 10th or June 22nd for approval on these reports.
I'm thinking if you want to go that way, I've got some other areas that we can go ahead.
Okay.
Not tonight, Lee. Good try, though. You're already over there by the special ed person asking for things. Let's see how this works.
So any other, with that, we'll just have a motion for adjournment. Oh, yeah, we're just adjourning. Sweet.